and now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
This is News Talk.
OK, good to have you aboard. Lots going on in the world. Just mentioned there before 7 o'clock news, Wales have booked their place in the knockout stages. A 2-0 win against Turkey. They are through to the knockout stages. Turkey still on 0 points. Damien Delaney is with us for the full football show between 9 and 10. Shane Ryan going to join us this hour. Shane Ryan, always great on the show. He'll be looking ahead to the US Open, the third major of the golfing year at Torrey Pines. Gets underway tomorrow. McIlroy and Shane Lowry very much in with a chance, you would think. After 8 o'clock, Wednesday night rugby, we'll be talking lines with Ronan O'Gara. So looking forward to that. And we'll hear from Dublin's Una White and Meath's Orla Duff on the new GAA gloves that they've designed and putting out in the market. And there is a huge gap in the market, it seems. So gloves specifically for young girls and for women. So we'll hear about how that plan came to fruition. 53106, the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack, hello to you.
Hi, Joe.
Nathan Murphy, hello.
Evening, gentlemen.
Tell you what, Nathan, it's the last time I pay about 12 quids for some fancy magazine to tell me Turkey are dark horses for the tournament. The amount of spoofery which goes on in these things. From a lot of people who've probably seen 20 minutes of Turkey. Listen, the results in the World Cup qualifier suggested they were on the right track and maybe one of the main beneficiaries of the tournament being delayed by a year, but they have been shocking. Absolutely shocking in these first two games. Could have been beaten 5-0 on Friday night by Italy. Could have been beaten 5-0 tonight by Wales. Wales absolutely battered them. They were brilliant to watch. It was there was a joy in the way they were playing. To see Aaron Ramsey again on this stage delivering, scored one, probably should have scored a hat-trick. And Gareth Bale, like the criticisms at times of Gareth Bale this season, that maybe he was holding himself back for the European Championship. Well, now you see why. Now you see what it means to him for Wales. What he did in the last couple of minutes to set up the second goal. He did it twice deep into injury time in about the 95th minute, where he was down by the corner flag and he thought he's just going to keep it down there, waste a few seconds. And he cuts in right down by the end line, skips past a couple of players. First time he shot himself and it was saved at the near post. Second time he pulls it back for Conor Roberts, who slots it in. 2-0 Wales. It was a game of just reckless abandon from both sides, particularly from Turkey, with no control at all, and it seemed to suit Wales, who were happy to play into it. And yeah, they're on their way into the knockout stages, and they're looking pretty good. I mean, Gareth Bale tried to tell everyone he's literally in his time stood behind a giant flag with his teammates laughing that says Wales, Golf and Real Madrid in that order. And we think, oh yeah, it's ironic. It's not ironic. This is exactly his outlook in life, and so he's doing it again. I mean, Wales were written off by everybody. Look, the Ryan Giggs situation is obviously very, very difficult, I'm sure, for them. But you start looking at the team. Daniel James is there. Ramsey has pitched up in very good form. Bale is a different player for Wales. They've got Cardiff City's finest and Kiefer Moore there, and Joe Allen behind them. And the club team mentality, which goes a long way in international football. You throw all that into the mix. The feel-good vibes from 2016. It's no shock they've done okay. A very good goalkeeper, says Richie McCormack. Did you read that in one of those magazines that said Turkey were dark horses?
No. Well, I've gone with the Swiss for being dark horses, which could prove to be
the Swiss, of course,
equally pish. But I thought Wales
goalkeeper hasn't played a league game in 3 years, we should point out. Danny Ward obviously started at Liverpool, but he hasn't played a league game in 3 years for Leicester. So he was coming in a little bit undercooked, to put it mildly.
And played brilliantly so far in the two matches, and played brilliantly for Huddersfield to get them up to the Premier League a couple of years ago as well, and is probably worth more than just being an understudy at a club like Leicester. I'm not saying he's a better goalkeeper than Kasper Schmeichel, but he's probably deserving better of the role that he currently finds himself in, and has kept them in games, both against the Turks today and then again the other day against Switzerland, with some brilliant saves, and has been the bedrock of that Welsh side, I think, over the course of these last 180 minutes. When you have that, when you have one world-class player and a decent goalkeeper and an ability to fight and scrap for pretty much every blade of grass on the pitch, then you're going to give yourself a pretty decent chance.
And I didn't see much of it, Nathan. Bale was good, genuinely good, was he?
He just seemed to be playing at a different pace to everybody else. When he needed to up it, when he needed to run at them, he was able to do that. When he had a brilliant ball for Ramsey's opening goal, set up both goals for Wales in the end, and just was constantly in the right place at the right time. Looked head and shoulders above everybody else on the pitch, with the exception maybe of Aaron Ramsey. And like Richie's right, one world-class player, but you touched on some of the names there. Like Daniel James, while can be frustrating and was frustrating this evening, still playing for Manchester United. And maybe we do look at Wales and Scotland in the eyes of an Irish context and why are they there and we're here. Just look at the substitutes that came out for Wales. 3 young players in the last 15 minutes. Ethan Ampadu, Harry Wilson, Neco Williams. 2 of them at Liverpool, 1 of them at Chelsea. So, and all exciting players. They may not make it at those clubs. They're all spending time out on loan. But still, real quality to come off the bench and energy. And there was a fight to them. Like there was a proper scrap nearly at the very end in injury time where the Turkish players were losing the head and the Wales players were getting stuck in there as well. And there is that togetherness that we saw in 2016. And I think everyone enjoyed what they did in 2016 so much. You'd love to see them do well again and see where they finish in that group, depending on the draw. May open up possibly for them to give themselves a bit of a run.
If we had Daniel James, Aaron Ramsey, Gareth Bale, Joe Allen, we would be demanding semi-final minimum. We'd be thinking we're going to win the bloody thing.
They need to get out of Baku, do you know that? They absolutely need to get out of Baku because that place is draining the life out of them. They were sweating buckets against the Swiss again today at pretty much every opportunity that they had, and they ran their legs to stumps this evening too. So that game tonight will have taken a lot out of them. I know the kind of pressure is off somewhat given their 2 results so far and that they go into the deciding game of the group against Italy. So they almost are pretty much in the last 16, but they need somewhere more, I guess, more suitable to Welsh blood than in the heat and the humidity of Azerbaijan, because that looked a nightmare to play in this evening, and it did as well on Saturday.
And they were lucky even this evening. It was an evening kickoff over there. They're a couple of hours ahead, but it was 35 degrees, and on Saturday it was not much fun at all in the sunshine. So I think you're right on that point for sure.
There's a big opportunity for them now, Joe. Sorry, just on what I'm saying, where they can go, because if we assume, and maybe I'm wrong too, that Italy go on and win that group and Wales were to finish second, well, they play the team that finishes second in Group B. Belgium will win that group. So it'll be one of Russia, Finland or Denmark that they will play in the last 16. So the momentum that they now have, they would, I think, really feel they could find themselves back in a European Championship quarterfinals again.
Yeah. So Ron Nogara on the way after 8 o'clock. La Rochelle still involved in top 14. Obviously, they're at the playoff stages. I'm not going to talk to him too much about La Rochelle. I was thinking Lions is sort of in the air. When you think of O'Gara and the Lions, you think of, I would put it to you, mainly 2 things. You think of the Duncan McRae assault, which is frankly what it was, and you think of the final moments of the second test in South Africa, and not much else. So I'm going to put it to him up front. Let's park those 2, because we've talked to you about those 2 loads before, and people can listen back to those podcasts or watch those videos. I want to hear about your 3 Lions tours away from those more headline grabbing things. You know, trying to, how do you fight Johnny Wilkinson for a number 10 jersey on your first tour? The Stephen Jones rivalry, then how he found life, you know, not being first pick. I've no real sense of if he enjoyed the Lions or not. I actually don't know if he really enjoyed it, didn't enjoy it, had contrasting experiences. So we'll do that with Ron Nogara after 8 o'clock. And first up, Nathan Murphy. It won't surprise you. I mean, it will upset you, but it won't surprise you to learn that on the eve of the US Open, Richie McCormack has no golf stories in his news round. So we recorded a Golf Weekly this afternoon. If you want to come join us there, patreon.com/Golf Weekly, you'll find us. Lots of things to talk about. Torrey Pines, iconic venue because of what Tiger Woods did there on 1.5 legs back in 2008. Not a super exciting course, we were saying, but the field is coming into some decent form, I would think, more so than in some previous majors. John Rahm, chief amongst them.
Yeah, John Rahm is the favourite, and deservedly so. This is a tournament and a venue that they play in every year. So the Farmers Insurance Open takes place at Torrey Pines every January, February. So the players are well used to the course. It'll be a different challenge. The rough will be higher. It'll be far more difficult. They will try and get the scores down more towards level par. But John Rahm has won here before. He's finished second here before. And until that COVID situation 10 days ago, where everyone will have seen the footage, he's told on the back of the 18th green on the Saturday, when he's in absolute control, 6 shots clear of the field, that actually you have COVID and you have to walk straight out of here, and he's in tears. He has suffered no ill effects, it seems, thankfully, from that. He has taken it in his stride. He has accepted that the PGA did everything that they had to do. He was a close contact. He knew this was a possibility, and that performance means he is a worthy favourite to go with the course form. And he is a major winner in waiting. There's a lot of love for him in this country because of what he's done in the Irish Open as a 2-time champion. And I really would like to see him get over the line this week. But there is a lot of lot of contenders. It's one of the great things about golf right now is that there is no dominant figure. We could spend an hour talking about who's the best player in the world right now. You could say Patrick Reed, you could say John Ram because of what he did over 3 rounds. You could say Jordan Spieth because he's won more world golf ranking points. Dustin Johnson can still turn it on. Rory may not feature in that, but we don't know what Rory's been doing for the last 2 weeks, and that's exciting in itself. We've seen little or nothing of Rory since the PGA. What's he done with Pete Cowan? Can he come out transformed tomorrow night? So, yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be late. Prepare yourself. Take your time over the weekend. Some of the tee times tomorrow night, not till 9:30, 10. Presume, Richie, you're going to be doing the live updates through the night.
Huh?
West Coast majors. They're not
West Coast majors are my enemy.
They're tough going.
8:15 kickoffs.
On Sunday, mind, they're going to finish a bit earlier than usual, which was welcome news. But I think Thursday to Saturday, you'll be up till just 3 a.m. It's worth it. You know it's worth it. So Lowry is there, and as you said, Nathan, Rory is there. They're the kind of the Irish contingent. McIlroy, as you said, we don't really know. He won on the PGA Tour at Quail Hollow a few weeks back. He didn't quite back it up at Kiowa when Mickelson won the second major of the year. And Shane Lowry is in very good form. 3 top 10s in his last 4 outings. He has been going very well, so he might fancy this. We'll talk to Shane Ryan around 7:30. Let's kick off the news round, Richie, with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette made of what matters. So give us the Euro situation.
Yeah, Wales with 1 foot in the last 16 following this evening's 2-0 win over Turkey in Baku. The goals came just before half-time from Aaron Ramsey and then just before full-time from Conor Roberts. In between, Gareth Bale sent a penalty kick sailing over the crossbar, but a 2-0 victory for the Welsh today. Still to come in Group A, the Stadio Olimpico in Rome is the venue for Italy's clash with Switzerland. The Corriere dello Sport reporting in the last half hour that a suspected car bomb was found in the vicinity of the Olimpico and was safely disposed of. Roberto Mancini makes one change from the win over Turkey with Giovanni Di Lorenzo replacing Alessandro Florenzi at right back. So the Italians have Gianluigi Donnarumma in goal. A back four then of Di Lorenzo, Leonardo Bonucci, Giorgio Chiellini and Leonardo Spinazzola. In midfield then we've got Nicolo Barella, Jorginho and Manuel Locatelli with Domenico Berardi and Ciro Immobile alongside Lorenzo Insigne up front. Earlier, Russia threw the cat among the pigeons in Group B with a 1-0 win over Finland in St. Petersburg. Alexei Mranchuk scored the game's only goal in first half injury time. Belgium, Russia and Finland all have 3 points in that group, with the Belgians playing their second game tomorrow against Denmark. A report, meanwhile, has been sent to UEFA regarding a homophobic banner displayed at yesterday's meeting of Hungary and Portugal. Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo also received a barrage of homophobic abuse from a section of the sold-out Puskás Arena. The incidents came on the same day that the far-right Hungarian government signed anti-LGBTQ measures into law. While the French medical team insists that they stuck by the UEFA protocols regarding concussion last night around Benjamin Pavard, the fullback admitted to being knocked out for 10 to 15 seconds following a collision with Robin Gosens in the 1-0 win over Germany. Speaking to the media today, Pavard's teammate Rafael Varane insists the Bayern fullback was fine to play on. And one final line from the Euros today, Marko Arnautovic is going to miss Austria's game with the Netherlands. He's been banned for 1 match for abusing North Macedonia defender Egjan Alioski on Sunday. Arnautovic has already apologised for the incident and has denied being racist.
So Damien Delaney is going to join us between 9 and 10. I was checking to see if Verratti is on the bench for Italy. He's not, though we're hearing he's close to a return. They looked very impressive on the first day out. And then Nathan, on the Pavard situation last night, I mean, Varane coming out saying, no, he was fine with all his medical expertise. This has been much talked about. So various concussion charities like Headway, for instance, described the whole incident as sickening. It was interesting to read before Euro 2020, France included, all the teams partook in a conference and signed a charter, and the charter they signed said, we confirm that if a player of our team is suspected of having a concussion, he'll be immediately removed from the pitch, whether in training or match play. Now, there's no question that Pavard was suspected of being concussed, I would think. What jumped out to me more than anything was that they put Pavard up for post-match media duties, and he like casually admits, oh yeah, no, I was knocked out for 10, 15 seconds. You compare that to rugby, neurotically now in fear of what's coming down the track when it comes to the issue of concussion, and like the protocols are so enshrined and have been for a long time. Like if a rugby player had been involved in a controversy like this, they'd be saying, you're going nowhere near the media. Like this is a massive story now. Football, it's like, oh, you know, out you go. Just casually admit you were knocked out for 15 seconds and played on.
It certainly gives the impression that they didn't see any issue with it, that even though at the time it looked quite sickening, and it doesn't take much in the world of VAR to do a quick replay and realise he's taken 2 quite heavy hits there. But the fact he was allowed to go out and do media without any real warning of if they were trying to cover up. So clearly they weren't trying to cover this up. They just didn't see that there was any sort of an issue. That, all right, he was knocked out for 10, 15 seconds, but then he was fine. And they put some water on the back of his head. So on you go.
Go ahead, those balls clear. It's a strange
one. Football we know is miles behind, and they will use an excuse that maybe it's a different situation to rugby, where quite often they are those straight up head-on collisions, that this was a slightly different scenario, and they are ready and waiting for it now in rugby. Whereas in football, there's always a sense of, well, it was just a knock, it was just a bit of a bang.
If you look at that treatment, if you look at that treatment of Pavard last night, like it's not. I'm not calling into question what the medical team were doing, because you got to trust that they actually know what they're at. But there was a situation around him whereby he was being attended to by the physio, and the physio is obviously trying to see if he's compos mentis. But Varane was definitely around him for one, and there was another player, and they're kind of just jockeying things, hurrying things along, trying to have a word in his ear, and that's, I'd imagine, not the situation you'd want to have when you're trying to assess whether or not a player has suffered a brain injury, be it minor or otherwise. It just didn't really leave the best of tastes in the mouth. And as you mentioned there, he didn't go off the pitch. They could probably say, well, he did go off, when they have that silly rule where you have to go off and come to the halfway line and then be ushered back on by the referee, and say that was enough. But there's enough cause for concern there to suggest that should have been handled in much, much different circumstances last night.
Yeah, they're a bit behind. We
seem to live in fear of, and maybe we're right with the libel laws in this country, but live in fear of questioning the medical professionals when it comes to sport. Like, there's no doubt that medical professionals must be under pressure from within sporting organisations all the time, and feel a part of that team and feel a duty to that team and to that player, as much as they will rely on their medical background and want to make the best decision. Like, to suggest that there's not a pressure felt to make sure players are able to stay on the pitch, I think would be pretty naive.
No, that's true. They may have to go the route of independent doctors who are watching all the pictures, and if they see anything that gives them cause for suspicion, then they can make the decision. Now, Nathan, if you could, my good man, just put your hands over your ears for the next 30 seconds and then we'll come back to you.
Mayo haven't put a time frame on Killian O'Connor's recovery. That's a beautiful picture. Having confirmed he needs Achilles surgery, the corner forward sustained the injury in last week's Division 2 game with Clare. Mayo play a Connacht quarter-final with Sligo in 10 days' time, with a potential semi-final against Leitrim to come on July the 11th. Speaking on episode 6 of the Football Pod with Paddy and Andy, the aforementioned Andy Moran says O'Connor's absence will be keenly felt.
Is last year in the championship, I was doing a few sums on it, and last year in the championship we scored 880, okay, and in that Killian scored 540, so that's more than half the points. It's a huge total, like it's 199 points, 4 points, 49, and even against the Dubs he scores 9, and he's the fulcrum, he's the leader of the team, he's possibly the most important player there, and he's been. I was hoping it was his calf, if I'm being honest with you. When I seen him go down, I was hoping it wasn't his Achilles. But yeah, fingers crossed, he's a hardy boy. But as Paddy says there, he's definitely the most important player. He leads the attack, he pushes our press. Yeah, but Paddy, say what you said about him there a couple of weeks ago. You said he's horrible.
He's a little bollocks. But he's a brilliant player at it. But like, the obvious thing is his scoring, which, as Andy said, is off the charts. He's the top scorer in the history of the championship. But it's like Mayo at their best, he is leading their attack when they're defending. So like say, Dublin would always found it hard against Mayo, getting the ball up the pitch, because their forwards were just savage tacklers. All of them bar Andy. Andy was hiding in the corner. And it mightn't be as obvious as the highlights of kicking all the scores. He leads how Mayo press.
Yeah, total all-rounder. Paddy Andrews there with Andy Moran. So just search the Football Pod and you'll find the lads wherever you get your podcasts, or the OTB Sports app, or it's on YouTube as well with Tommy Rooney. I mean, Sunday, Nathan, was his 100th appearance for Mayo. There were loads of pieces in the various papers. Even Mick Foley had a great one talking about various, insights into just what a professional Killian O'Connor is. Like when he burst on the scene as a 19-year-old and quickly took over free kick, taking duties after they did a little trial in training, and he emerged as the main man, to having headphones blaring "Come on you boys in blue" into his ears as he practiced his frees before All-Ireland semi-final against Dublin. All the physical preparation. You don't want to write Mayo off doing mad things, because they routinely do mad things and beat the odds, but I would think across the county now, anyone who knows their football, they're saying to each other, well, there goes this year. That's this year, no chance now.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine them beating Dublin and racking up that big score you'd need without Killian O'Connor. And the lads touch on he does in terms of leading the press and what a nightmare he is, and make sure Stephen Cluxton will kick another way to avoid the player that Killian O'Connor is marking. He's had a lot of injuries throughout his career. The stats around the 100 appearances are interesting, that he's more championship than league, because quite often he's shoulder problems, knee problems during the league, but he's always been there for the championship, and his leadership qualities as well. I think back to, I think it was his debut in the game against London, where Mayo were nearly beaten a decade ago, and remember James Horn saying that at half-time, Killian O'Connor, first time in the dressing room of the championship, was the one who stood up and was the one who was rousing the players. And he was talking about his leadership qualities as good as anyone you would see in sport. That I think his line at the time was, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being the president of Ireland, that was the sort of leader he was. People rallied around him. And with the losses Mayo have had over the last couple of seasons, Andy Moore and Tom Parsons, Shamie O'Shea, 6-7 players gone, for Killian O'Connor not to be there as well, it's a hammer blow. And still waiting to hear what the situation is with Diarmuid O'Connor. So Mayo were coming into the Connacht Championship very much as the form team, even in Division 2. So maybe they can still win the Connacht Championship even without Killian O'Connor, but to try and beat Dublin without Killian O'Connor is...
Yeah, very difficult. We wish him well in his recovery. Achilles is no joke, so hopefully we see him back soon. Where are we going next, Rich?
To the Ireland squad, uncapped Ulster centre James Hume has been added to that Ireland squad for next month's tests with Japan and the United States. He replaces Gary Ringrose, who requires a procedure on a shoulder injury. Hume's addition brings the number of players from Ulster in Andy Farrell's 37-man squad to 12. While sticking with rugby, next season's Heineken Champions Cup will be played across 9 weekends. Teams will play 4 pool matches each, with 2 in December and 2 in January. The round of 16 will be a 2-leg format in April, with the final again penciled in for Marseille on the 28th of May next year.
Yeah, I think that double header, or the 2-legged format for the knockout stages, could be interesting, something different. So we'll see how it goes next year. Meanwhile, Irish football teams in Europe, Rich?
Yeah, looking ahead somewhat hopefully to this one, Shamrock Rovers will play the Swiss side Young Boys should they see off Slovan Bratislava in the first qualifying round of the Champions League. If Bohemians beat Stjarnan in the Conference League, they'll face Stuyt of Luxembourg next. Sligo Rovers will play Rosenborg if they see off Hafnarfjordur, another Icelandic outfit. And if Dundalk can beat Newtown, they'll take on either Levadia Tallinn from Estonia or St. Joseph's from Gibraltar. And of course, Vinnie Perth rumoured to be taking over the manager slot yet again at Oriel Park.
Okay, so I'm curious to see what other stories have pipped golf here on the eve of the US Open. So I'll let you get through one or two more here. I just want to see.
There's only so many times you can do the tea times, Joe. You know what I mean? Unless
I want to know the tea times.
Sure, they were out yesterday. You know them then. The 8 O'Brien trained Love won the Prince of Wales Stakes, the feature race on day 2 of Royal Ascot today. The 11-10 favourite beat both Ardoria and Armory by 3/4 of a length today, and it was O'Brien's 75th winner at Royal Ascot, and one he didn't necessarily expect.
A little bit worried coming here today because she was prepared for a few runs and didn't get to run, and to come into a race like this without a run was a big disadvantage. She was vulnerable today at the distance, and then as the race came together, there was no pace in it, so and going to be vulnerable to making your own run. And so Ryan did a great job balancing it, doing enough for her to win, and at the same time not doing enough because he knew Armory was going to be coming from the back, and he knew he was prepared for the race. So, no, it was brilliant, really. Like, he gave her a great ride, delighted with the filly, and listen, it's a pleasure and a privilege to have her.
75 was the magic number at Royal Ascot today because jockey Frankie Dettori rode his 75th winner at the festival as Indie Angel won the Duke of Cambridge Stakes.
Very good. By the way, on France last night, have we seen the best team in the competition? It seemed like they won in 3rd to 4th gear, except Pogba. He was on a mission to troll Manchester United fans. He decided to cruise up on into 5th.
Yeah, they seem to have it all, where they're rock solid at the back. Varane was brilliant last night, looks back to his very best. Kante was doing what he does, which is not only being exceptional himself and being an absolute nuisance, but also bringing the very best out of Paul Pogba and releasing him in a France jersey. And Pogba just played it at his own pace, and you feel in Mbappe, like, Jesus, he humiliated Hummels at one stage. Now, Hummels did brilliantly to get back and make the tackle, but my God,
was that the tackle he got back where he went through the back of
He went through. No, he was lucky.
That was a penalty.
He got the ball.
No.
He got the ball, but got the man. I think he just about got enough of the ball between his legs, between Mbappe's legs, and then took the man. You don't expect that tackle. And then what I found really interesting listening to a lot of the commentary on Off the Ball over the last few days from the French pundits is the reverence that Benzema is held in France. Now, at club level, obviously, he was overshadowed for so long by Ronaldo. And you'd hear Graham Hunter talking about how brilliant he's been at times for Real Madrid, but maybe because of Ronaldo, his exploits and his work rate weren't seen. Whereas every French journalist I've heard talking about him is that all the players worship him, like that. Suddenly, the great Karim Benzema has decided to return to the World Cup winning squad, and they're all in awe of him and his talents around the training ground. And he had the goals disallowed last night. So, like, if they talk about him in that way, in that team that was already probably strong favourites for this, yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was a much at a different level to England. It was a professional job, and you feel there's more in them. You just have to assume it's going to come at some stage, and you want it to come. You want to see
you do
rip a team to shreds.
Because even as they won the World Cup, I was thinking there's more in this team, you know. So we'll see if they blossom.
Well, look at the manager, and maybe he's happy with the old water carriers and keep it solid and nothing too extravagant.
There might be a bit of that. Nathan, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Richie McCormack, as ever, thank you.
Good luck, lads.
We have Ronan O'Gara.